Ta-da!
Hi,
Hello.
how are you guys?
We're great.
Patiently waiting for you. How are you?
Yeah, sorry. It's been a fun day.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, I have a guest with me too in person. So
Tim?
we are like merging into this new like in-person Zoom world because I think that's just going to be it from now on. So
Nice.
what have you guys talked about anything up until now?
You have 6 women on the screen. Of course we're talking about stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, I know all about that. I should preface that, have you mentioned anything regarding the budget model or budget items in the 20 minutes?
Empire building podcast. Therese was just telling us about. We should listen to the last one.
Okay.
No, listen to all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely listen to all of them. But number 6 and 7, know your numbers, is just fantastic.
So before we kind of dive in here, like, we have a couple new people. Shelly, Charisse, Lisa, and Chris have dove into this model, just jumped all in and pained their way through it and put a lot of time and effort and maybe tears and wine into figuring out their numbers and what that looks like. And, we've been doing this now for maybe 9 months, 10 months. And it's really starting to take hold that we're being able to tell stories and make decisions based on our numbers. And last mastermind, we really dove into like, what did you learn from this? What decisions would you have made differently if you knew what you knew now? And so for the people on here, like the goal and the intent is to learn this as soon as possible, so then you don't have to make the mistakes that we made. And we continue to talk about it. And now you have 6 people that are resources that have I won't say mastered yet, but are on the path to mastery around the budget model. And Katie is my Lifetime Realty Group's director of operations. So she's forced to be on this call against her will, and but also is learning a lot by being on it and then taking notes and just helping us dive in. So we make decisions. We talk about what we find all the time to make decisions. And our ultimate goal is to get within that, it may not ever be 30, 30, 40, meaning 30% goes to cost of sales, 30% goes to expenses, and then 40% goes to profit. And that's the basic foundation of running a real estate business, that you're able to net 40% profit. And with our team, with me being out of the business basically right now, my goal for this year is to not sell a house. And Jeremy, he's still in the business, but we have an additional listing specialist. When we have that much leverage, our cost of sales will naturally be higher than 30, 35. However, we have a lot of room for improvement. And we've been making decisions under the premise that we don't want to blow up our ship just because we found something we don't like. And so if you just find something you don't like and just, fire everyone and start over, that's probably not the best business decision. And, I learned on the 30-30-40 video with Jason Abrams was just build a side boat next to your real boat and then start doing things better moving forward. Like, what small improvements can you make? And I'm happy to announce that when we found this out originally, that our cost of sales is way too high and we had some wonky things going on with our team splits, we had this conversation at the end of the year. And we didn't just change it right away, because having a takeaway is never fun for anyone. And chances are they will probably leave. But we did sunset it. And so that was a lot of S's. As of July 1st, the new change and the new agreement will come into place. And so we'll be able to hopefully start seeing that cost of sale number go down. and we can, reallocate, or actually right now we would just actually keep it for profit, heaven forbid, and get our total profit percentage up. But ultimately, when we can get more aligned in models, then we can provide more value, because we can redistribute it in lead generation, or redistribute it in more staff, or just things to help our business. So like exciting stuff right around the corner. Come next Mastermind, we'll be on our new and approved team agreements. And then every team agreement moving forward will obviously mimic this, because it's better to start out right. But at some point, you're making the best decision that you can make based on the information that you have right now. And you're never going to know it all, and it's never going to be perfect. And so you just have to take faith and act, and then just learn from your mistakes and fail forward. And our goal is to hopefully make you guys fail a lot less and move forward a lot faster. Before I get into, I want to get into a couple basics just for Carrie and Nicole. But before I do that, do you guys have any specific questions that you have come up with since last time, or any, either it could be a question, or it could just be something you learned, that we could all benefit from? Because this is us, this is our mastermind.
Oh, yeah, I had some takeaways from Profit Camp, which we watched. Was that yesterday, or was that 2 days ago?
Monday.
Okay, I don't know what day it is.
It was June 13th, whatever.
Whatever. It was recent. So on there, they were saying that they do not include their automobile, like the lease or whatever it might be, on their business profit and loss, unless the car is owned specifically by the business. So I know when I was doing my 2019, I put my car lease in there, and so I'm thinking, because, and I did just get a new car recently, but it's not in my business name. My husband and I both use it. So I'm thinking like I need to keep it off of my expenses, except for mileage.
Wouldn't it depend on how you put it into service when you leased it, when you first got it? Because the tax liability, you have two different options with taxes.
Yeah, I bought, though I didn't lease, so I don't know if that affects.
It does. So I would ask your CPA, how is he putting that in? Because if you're just doing mileage, then there isn't anything to claim. If you have a car payment, you can claim the interest, oil changes, all of that, but you have to do it right away. Did you get it this year or last year?
This year.
I would ask your CPA what you should do now that you have a new vehicle. My understanding, because I've never had mine in the name of the business, but I just had to track. If I did mileage, then it was actual business mileage versus commuting mileage versus personal mileage. But if you put it in, if when you first get it, you can do actual expenses. So I would ask your CPA, and then based on what he tells you, then I would do it that way. That would make more sense to me.
Sure.
My general thought on any question around CPA advice, or what a CPA would say, and what Keller Williams says with this model, is you got to know the underlying question of like, okay, a CPA may give you different advice, in a CPA tax review will tell you different numbers than what this budget model spreadsheet will tell you, because this is like the actual true cost to run your business. And so like when you look at, the biggest one is paying yourself a salary. They mentioned there's a concept above the line, which is anything that would impact your expenses in your real estate business, and there's below the line, which would not. And so they mentioned on the Profit Camp call that what I personally feel too is that any any salary you pay yourself wouldn't be considered a true expense to your business because it's technically a profit that you're just taking as a salary. And what you're looking at doing is you're looking at knowing the true cost of what it takes to run your business. And so if I were to pay someone to do my job, then that would 100% be an expense, a salary above the line. But since it's paying myself, technically, I don't want it to like really disproportionately say that I'm spending too much on salaries when really, some of it's going to myself. And so the other big area that this would come to light would be the automobile. And so, yeah, you're definitely going to be able to claim all your expenses, depreciate, do everything with your CPA on your taxes. But like, I don't necessarily have the right answer, but what is it truly cost to run your business? It's not necessarily what you can depreciate and claim on your taxes, but how much of that is a true cost to your business. And then I would put that under automobile. And right now I haven't put anything on my spreadsheet for automobile and maybe, but at the same point, if you're out showing houses and you're out going and you're driving, well, there's clearly a need for transportation. And so that's a good question to dive into, or to think about, like under the lens of what does it truly take to run the business, and not like, hey, how can I deduct as much as possible?
Right.
Well, and my CPA said, basically if it's about 80% of the actual cost, because that's about where the IRS, if you don't track every mile, that's about what they'll allow. And he said, just take 80% of the actual cost, because that is what you use, and you have another car to use, and you have a second car to use. So I guess it just depends, because, I agree, Scott. I think that, if you're out showing houses, driving to appointments, all of that is an actual expense for the business, because you wouldn't be putting those miles on your car and using that gas and getting oil changes more often if you weren't actually doing all that driving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
whatever you
it's a gray area.
You just have to do it consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually kind of just like switch my mindset on that a little bit, because Jeremy and I, well, we're partners, business partners, and so we have 2 cars. Well, we don't pay for our gas or pay for oil changes or pay for anything on our business account. I pay it all on my personal account, like my joint account. And so I wonder, to Chris's point, like taking a fair amount of a percentage and just saying, well, this is how much it costs me to run my business. Now it's going to cost me a lot less to run my business driving back and forth to the office 7 minutes each time than it is Jeremy, who's probably driving out to, he drove out to Richfield and drove out to wherever, and using more gas. So I think that's a good question, Katie, that Jeremy and I should kind of discuss to create a fair, like we want to make the most fair, accurate depiction of what it costs to run our business. And I think that some of that would be needed, what would be needed for an insurance and for for all of that. I paid for the car. You could buy the car, you could lease the car, you could have monthly payments, you could pay it outright. Like, I would hate to say that because I bought a truck that, I have this big expense this year because, I bought the truck, and maybe it's, I don't know. That's a really good point to just kind of dive into.
Yeah. My percentage for auto and transportation is going to go like crazy out of whack, if I consider like the down payment I put down and then, my car payment, it'll be totally different from my lease last year. And yeah, so I was having some reservations on how best to include that.
So Chris, you don't put anything down for expenses right now on your spreadsheet.
For my car?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And I don't either.
Neither do I.
Does anybody?
Well, I did for 2019 because there was the space on there,
Yeah.
and I'm a rule follower, so I filled that space.
Lisa. We
So-
did.
Fair enough.
We did
Shelley,
gas.
did you?
Just gas and maintenance. We didn't put anything else.
Okay.
So you track actual expenses.
Yes, yeah. That was
Can I ask you guys a clarifying question?
Yes.
So, are you talking about like for tax purposes, or are you just talking about for business budgeting purposes?
This is it'll make more sense in a second because I'm going to
Okay.
share what the hell we're talking about.
Okay. No,
But
that's good.
the basics is this is not a tax conversation. This is a Gary Keller School of Accounting, where what does it take to run your business and to actually, there's accounting profit and then there's real profit. Like I actually have money from my business. So does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, I'm going to do a quick basic overview here because we have Nicole. How do you say it? Is it Lasaki?
Where is she? Hi.
And Carrie. And so I have put out a call, like the bat signal for fellow, like, I won't say nerdy people because I can call myself nerdy. I don't want to call other people nerdy. But for other people that love or at least know the importance of numbers and budget, and they both agreed to hop on and agree that they wanted to learn more. And so I want to share with everybody what I was doing before this media madness today, because I had some really fun stuff I'm able to share. But just as a basic here, everything at KW is run by a system or a model, and I'm going to share my screen. Oh, damn it. I can't share my screen. Hold on a second. I got to go into Zoom. So everything by KW is run by a model, and one of the 4 models is the budget model. And what became very, very evident after studying, thousands and hundreds or thousands of realtors is that this is a business based on production, and it glorifies production. It does not glorify profit. As we're going into this new world and teams are more popular and, leverage is more popular and everything's happening, we're finding that profits are going south. They're like the agents are selling more and they're actually keeping less. And so this is becoming a big problem. And really the only way to do it is to know your numbers and to look at it and do it all the time and really look. So as I open this up, can somebody, here, let me try. It might've worked. Nope. I'm gonna hop right back on. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We can do that.
One thing I'm excited about, guys, is I'm going to have our accountant this week is putting in the chart of accounts from the budget model thing into QuickBooks. So I'm so excited that I won't have to like double work it every time, right?
Doing that too, Shelley.
I'm like, this is a priority.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely. Absolutely. I know the first time when I took the old spreadsheet prior to Scott creating the new one, the first time I took it to my CPA, he's like, they actually use the same chart of accounts and this makes sense. And he works for a lot of realtors and he's like, nobody does this. You just made my life so much easier. I'm like, well, it made my life a whole lot easier as well.
Yeah, it's
It's going to make your life super easy. Yay.
Yeah, ours is also syncing to QuickBooks, Shelley. Our CPA is syncing our chart of accounts. I did a Zoom with her like 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
sharing everything tab by tab. And I mean, she's like, yeah, like, I get it. I can make this happen for you. So it's exciting.
Yes.
It popped up. You're the host now.
Nice. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to create a detailed video on this for newbies. And I actually was planning on it today because I was making really good progress, because it'll allow you to be able to see this and digest it on your own time. And so if you have other people that want to, that may want to join the masterminds or things, you can send them this information. But if you look here, Carrie, are you able to see this? So, oops, now are you? Just kidding.
I
So
can see it.
if you look at this, and I'm not really able to make it much bigger, but you can get the point, is according to the budget model mastermind, or the budget model in the MREA, this is 2, because what happened since 2004 is a lot changed, and they're updating. Although the book isn't updated, this model has been updated. And so a couple of things that happens is it breaks this down based on total GCI, because if your GCI is $3 million, you have different problems and concerns and focuses than if your GCI is 350. And there's actually a newer and improved one of this, which is it's super exciting for me. I hope you guys get excited as I do, because I made changes on it today, based on this new one. And nothing much has changed, nothing big, except for one thing. And instead of automobile and insurance being under one category, they split the 2 up and they gave each a percentage. And so when I look at this new version, which I can't promise won't change again because I'm not Gary Keller, but this one is a better, because it also goes down to 150 for GCI. And so the first thing that you want to do if you're starting off is you want to say, what am I looking for from a gross commission income to run my real estate business? And you don't need a team. You don't need buyer agents or admin or anyone to have a real estate business. The moment you get your license, you have a real estate business. And so this is meant to guide you and track you to stay on track as you continue to grow and scale your team. And as Charisse put it, build your empire. And if you can nail the section or the column that you're in, then you can continue to nail the column you're in as you continue to move more to the right. And so Charisse and Nicole, or sorry, not Charisse, Carrie and Nicole, you guys would choose your level of GCI that you want to base your budget model after. And if it's somewhere in between these numbers, then I would just either go with what's in between these percentages, or if you're closer to 340 than 150, you're just going to have to at some point make a call that you're basing this off of. Like if you said your GCI was 300,000, what I would probably do is I just use these 340 numbers because it's close enough. If you're truly in the middle, like 250, then maybe just say just take these numbers in the middle, because you can see that everyone has a gauge. And so this is saying for your expenses, if you're running a $150,000 team, then 5.6% of your business, your commission should go to salaries. 2.2 should go to professional services, which might be anyone other than a paid member on staff. And so 7.8% or $11,640,000 should go towards compensation, because it shouldn't take a lot of leverage to run a $150,000 team. Are you guys good so far?
Mm-hmm.
And then you break down the second biggest category is lead generation. Now it has the ability to generate, or under that it says what it takes to manage listings. and then what it takes to just general prospecting and marketing. And so total, you can see that 11.2% of your income would go towards lead generation. And then these other 7 buckets break down every single thing that you would spend money on. And a general rule of thumb is there is no other. Like if you have a one-off expense, it will fit under one of these categories, under one of these chart of accounts. And as you scale from 150 to say 970, you can see that although the numbers might be similar, like 3.8 to 5%, 5% here is 7,500, 3.4% here is 53,000. So everything just scales based on a percentage. Your need for staff up here greatly increases as you continue to sell more homes, because at some point you just can't do it all yourself. So this is, when we say budget model mastermind, this is the budget model. And first step, pick your column. Do you guys each have your column? You don't have to say what it is, but do you have a column that you would pick, Carrie?
I think. I feel like I'm in between the first two, but I don't know. So
Is someone else between columns and what they did?
I am. I was kind of between the first two. So I was a little closer to the second column. So that's the number, or last year. So that's the numbers I'm using for this year. I'm using the 340 column.
okay.
So, before you would move forward, you would want to obviously know what that looks like, or which column that you're in. And then the next step of this is when you actually dive into, Chris, I got you pulled up twice. I must be stalking you here. When I pull up this spreadsheet, the point of this Google Sheet is to bring the budget model to life. Because before, the profit and loss statement was only showing my expenses. And if I need to track my cost of sales and my expenses, I needed something, one way to do this that made sense, that told the complete story. And so you can see in this area here that every one of those 9 buckets, it has a tag, it has a number, it's called a chart of account, 6-1000, 6-2000, 6-3000, 6-4000, and on down to 6-9000. So these are all our expenses. And then we also have 5 columns that would include cost of sales. And anything that is a cost of sale only happens when you have a sale. And the 5 buckets those could fall in, these are like my buckets too, in a sense, because it doesn't go into this much detail in the MREA 2. But I figured you're either going to pay your team something on a sale, you're going to pay your company something on a sale, you're going to pay out a referral commission if you get a you get a lead from Dallas, from a Dallas agent, you're going to pay them out. Or if you have a company like Homelight or Dave Ramsey, you're going to pay them out. I did 5-4000 as lead capture commissions, because you might be paying someone to handle your inbound calls or to make outbound calls, and you got to pay them at closing. And then a transaction management commission. And so of those 5 things, you would total up and see a total percentage of what your cost of sale is. When you know your number, that commission number, these yellow would be where you would put your number. And what I mean by that is this percentage right here, you would put in 5.6%, or 7.8% should go towards compensation. You would put 7.8% right here for compensation. And what this is going to do now is it's going to give you a total as you continue to track all your numbers. And it's going to tell you if you're above that number or below that number by using a different color. And does anybody, I'll share mine unless, does anybody want me to use you as an example yet, or do you want me to share mine?
You can use mine, Scott. I don't care.
Look at you. Okay, wrong one.
I have the old one though, FYI.
I know.
So
That's
I'm an
okay.
OG.
So just so you guys know too, I made even more revisions on the spreadsheet, like a lot of revisions today. So it's version 3.1. And the best thing that I could say is most likely what I'm going to end up doing is just putting, as the OGs of the budget model mastermind, I'm just going to end up putting your info into the new one because it would be easier than trying to update yours. And so I'm just thinking through that right now. But when I look through this, you can see what story this starts telling Charisse. And we're very open and transparent about our numbers because we've all shared this with each other before. But when we look at this, we'll look at expenses first and we say, Charisse's goal is to be within 32% expenses as a team. And throughout May, so she's tracked all 5 months, she's actually at 32.74. So that's pretty damn awesome, right? Did she leave?
She lost us. She just popped up on the thing. She lost us.
That's funny.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, thanks.
So I just gave you a compliment, but I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want you to hear it.
I heard it.
Damn it.
Thanks for the kudos.
So if this number, so really what we do is if these numbers are less than what the number allocated for is, it's going to turn green on this case. And if it's more, it's going to turn pink because it gives this little snapshot of what, it's like a little scorecard. Now, 32.74 is pink. However, that's not something that you're gonna be too concerned about. That's like pretty much spot on to your model. And so every one of these buckets here, she has a percentage based on that little column she chose on the budget model. The next part of the story that nobody really talks about because people do track expenses, but nobody's really looking at cost of sales. And Charisse has a team of 2 buyer agents now. It's a couple admin. And so she's running a big team. And her goal is to be 35% cost of sale. And so at her column, her model isn't actually 30, 30, 40. The goal is actually 35% cost of sale, 32% expenses, which would then leave her with 33% profit. Because when we talk about 30, 30, 40, that's running $1 million real estate team, $1 million net real estate team. And the entire book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, is about how to net $1 million a year in real estate. And so as you move your way up the columns, these numbers are going to be a little bit tweaked, but they're close enough. And so now it looks like Charisse, throughout the year, your cost of sales is 39.14%, which that went down dramatically, didn't it?
Yes.
Since April?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. So if you look at her total here up at top, everything that we type into this budget model spreadsheet can be summed up by this top like 7-10 lines. And so we're saying through May, Charisse has made $149,000 in gross commission. This is team commission income. 58,000 of it has gone out the door before it hit her checking account. It ran away from her. It wanted nothing to do with her. And so that leaves her with 91,000 profit, of which she spent 49,000, and it left her with a net income so far of $42,159. So a couple things that I note on this. when you looked at this number through March and you left out April and May, it wasn't looking too pretty yet.
No.
So what changed from March, from January, February, March? What did you guys see that has changed dramatically from January, February, and March to April and May?
Well, for one, there were more listings, right? So we're not giving away cost of sale for listings because we do the listings. Also, in
She froze again.
I think she's going to say GCI. Look at her GCI in
April and May.
April and May. So her GCI in April was as much as it was January through March. And so there's two ways to have pretty numbers. One, you can sell a lot more homes and make a lot more commission. Yep.
My internet is like awful. I apologize.
You know, you're just cutting expenses. You're like a budget queen.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at this through March, her cost of sales was like 60%. And her net was actually like 0 or like 1%. Because what this is going to tell you is it's going to give you a gauge of like, I need to make X amount of dollars a month in commission, team commission income in order to just break even, in order to survive. And so obviously that number is, it's not 48,000 or 51 because, you know, you've made good money there, but it's probably somewhere around that $22,000, $23,000 mark of like, this is the commission our team needs to make in order to last. And people could look at that one of two ways. Like, that's pretty scary. You know, I don't want that kind of a stress and team. And they make a decision on like, okay, I'm going to keep my team small. I'm going to keep it lean and mean. Or you could look at it as like, hey, there's higher risk in this, but there's really high reward. I know that's going to take me 23 grand a month to run this team. And so I'm just going to build everything I can in order to get, say, you know, $100,000 in the bank that I can have this like 5 to 6 month buffer and just be okay with the highs and lows that come with it. And especially through this pandemic that we heard and that we've been in, like now more than ever, that's appropriate. Because luckily it hasn't been bad yet in terms of home selling, but it sure the hell gave me a scare. And it sure the hell made me revisit how I run, you know, my reserves for the office and for the team. And looking at May, I see that it took her $9,864,000 to make $51,000, right? So she had $9,800 in expenses to make $51,000. It took her $9,700 to make $0 in February. So the beautiful thing about expenses is they're so scalable. And so the reason why you want half cost of sales, half expenses is because if you're all cost of sale, you're going to be giving away the farm and you're not going to be profiting. If you're all expenses, well, now there's a ton of risk. So now you're putting on like you got an average month, you know, you got 5,000 of cost of sales, 5,400 of expenses. That's not right. I gotta fix that. I'm sorry. But there's beauty in both, and there's also negative in both. So don't always think like expenses are bad, because expenses are super scalable. I bet, Therese, you could have made 80 grand in May and your expenses would have been like 10 grand. And so now you're just shooting your profit percentage through the roof.
Yep.
I love what you said, Therese, that so you guys know they don't have listing specialists. So every cost of sale they have comes on the buying side. So one way that they can lower their cost of sale is just by selling more listings, because they're going to make 100% of those versus 50% of their buyers. That's awesome. Does anybody else see anything or have comments around this 5-month snapshot?
Good job, Charisse.
Thank you.
This is really cool. Seeing the progress, like super cool, because, you know, last year they based their numbers off of what they wanted to sell and they didn't get there. And, you know, you have this top team, and you behind closed doors, everyone's glorifying you and telling you good job. And then, you know, you look at what's happening, and there's no profit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one thing to look at here is, you know, we're 5 months in and your net income is 42 grand. And so when you look at your net income, you know, you got 5 months of data now. So would you work, you know, this isn't directed at Charisse, this is directed at everyone. When you get 5, 6, 8, 10 months of data, a year of data, would you go get a job that paid you that amount, the net income amount, or would you work per hour for that income amount? And if the answer is no, then you got to really start to think of doing something different, because we're probably all running ourselves into the ground. And if that net number would be like 10 grand, you're like, hey, cool, we made 2 grand a month for the first 5 months. Like, it becomes pretty real. Like, oh my gosh, this is super, super important. And the purpose of this business is to make a profit, because now you can do a lot of good with profit. Charisse or Lisa, were you going to say something?
Nope.
Sorry.
I was going to say, Scott, one of Sarah Dreyer, who was on this, she was on this initially, and then she was having some issues like connecting. But earlier today, she asked on the morning pivot call about, like, what do you do with these numbers? And, you know, where do you start with analyzing these numbers to make changes? And it was just really interesting. I thought about it all day since she said it. And like, what would you say to someone, they get this filled out, or they start working on it, and they notice that, like, the numbers are like really out of whack? Like, where is the first place to start?
Well, I think you're going to realize really fast whether the issue is in cost of sales or whether the issue is in expenses.
Sure.
And so what happened with my team, our team, was when we looked at our commission number and we looked at our net number, it actually fell in line, like 30, 35, 40% net. And so we're like, hey, we're doing awesome. We're like running this to model. But what we didn't see is that our expenses were like 18% and our cost of sales were like 50. And so when we looked at the whole picture, we had a glaring understanding that we were giving too much away in cost of sales. So in that case, what we did was we looked at what our splits were, what our team agreement said, and we got coaching around it, and we came to the conclusion that we're going to change our splits, and we're going to change the one-offs and change the things that we added in there to kind of be nice, that don't make any business sense. Because originally when we made the team agreement, we were making it for the moment. We weren't thinking ahead 5 years of where we were probably going to grow. And so the first thing with cost of sales is like, this is where I'm going to be 5 years from now. How can I create an agreement right now that's going to cover all of that, so we're not going to have to change anything?
Mm-hmm.
And we made changes. We didn't want to say, like, hey, this is all completely, we're blowing up the ship. We made the changes to the people that were on the team, and for anyone moving forward, it's going to be a separate agreement based on what we know now. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is expenses. And you take a look at this detail right here, so the expense tab, and you start seeing, I'll show it based on here, but like, for expenses, let's say one of these is really out of whack. Salaries and payroll, 25% of her gross commission income is going out under salaries and payroll, when really it should be, according to model, 14.8. And so what Charisse is doing in this case, is she's revisiting her team, what that looks like, and to get that number in line. What we did, because we realized our expenses, our salaries were way too low, it became glaringly obvious that we were holding our team back because all of our operations were being held down by us. So we hired a director of operations. And so this number for us was like 8%, and now it's up to, you know, more of where it should be. So when you look at this and you see, wow, like lead generation, we might be able to spend more money in lead generation under the premise that we're going to get a 4-to-1 return on it, which will actually increase our commission, which would then decrease our percentage of expenses and cost of sale. And so you want to pick and choose like the biggest glaring points. To me, with Charisse, it would be the salaries and payroll, which she knows. And if she was able to get this in line and redirect the money into this, I bet she would start instantly seeing more, more return, more commission. But every other number here is there. To me, that would be the number one spot. And for Charisse, she hit the nail on the head when she said, for her cost of sales, every listing she sells is $0 cost of sale. Every buyer that she sells, this one she gave away $21.42, $22.48, $37.86. So let's redirect our business plan as such that how do we get more listings? I know we would do that anyways, but this is like the meat and potatoes to it, and saying we have to do this in order to be profitable. We have to do more listings because of every buyer that sold so far this year, she had 57% cost of sale. And for every listing, she's given away 0. So those were her 2 biggest takeaways. And we could go into, can I show anyone else's?
You can show mine if you want. I think it's the first one.
But do you want to show what mine looks like? Because it's different, the new one?
Yeah, I'll show yours too. Yep. So
well, that's
when you look,
I could give you 2020. I guess I didn't give you 2020 yet.
No, I think I have it.
Oh. Or you could show Chris's because you have it handy.
I'll show Chris's right now. That goes away. So this is version 2 of the spreadsheet, and you'll just see some differences. It's red and green, blah blah blah. I made some differences. I made some changes. But if I look at Chris's, and she entered through May, she's looking at. I'll start with expenses. So Chris is her goal, according to the model, well, we didn't put these numbers in yet, but we did put in the first 2. So is it 22% for payroll? Is that right?
I'm not sure because we didn't finish it, did we? So maybe mine isn't a good example because we didn't finish this.
That's okay. I can look through this, but we look at, her lead generation is right now at 16% of her commission. So if we look at expenses here and we break down everything under lead generation, for her, lead generation is these green little bars. It's what does it take to market her listings? What does it take to do her forever client? Her forever client giveaways and parties, her farming, her internet lead gen, networking, branding, cold calling, recruiting talent. All 8 of those buckets would then filter up to this one bucket of lead generation. And it's saying that so far for lead generation, she spent $14,955 this year. So look at this story. I mean, I can already see something. In January, it said it was $5,300. In February, it was $3,391, and now in April and May, it's $1,738. So can you tell us about that, Chris?
No client parties because of COVID.
Okay. So
I had to pivot. and spend money only on what is most important. And I am finding that I don't know that I'll ever go back to doing the bigger, more expensive parties that I did before, because there's too many other opportunities to cut those expenses. I'll still do them, but I won't do 6 a year like I did before. But you can see what happened. But yet the months where that is the lowest is when we had more contracts written and more closings. So you can do it without the big spends.
You can get creative.
It got very, yeah, we have more stuff coming up like you did. So, and doing this really shows you, wait a minute, I'm spending how much on what?
Yeah.
You know, for the client parties especially, I mean, we were having fun and, you know, getting great referrals and great business. And we've done that for many years. But we have to, it's time for us to pivot what we're doing with lead gen based on, we've been forced to do it. It forced us to get creative, and some of the stuff is going to stick.
Yeah, so what I see in the story here, Katie, to like Sarah's point, or a way to answer this question is, so look at January, February, and then these months. So we had, you know, $2,700 total in January for all of her forever client spend, 1,000 in February, 563, and then, you know, it goes down. And her biggest thing, she said, well, look, in January, she had her theater and she was paying for Santa photos. And then here she had catering, and then there's nothing. And what the next step of this is, and what I did with mine, when I can show you what mine looks like. For every single category, I put an asterisk here if it's a repeat, you know, monthly expense. And I put a, you know, based on the profit first book, if it's leading to my profit, I put a P. If it's unnecessary, I put a U. And if I could probably find it cheaper, I put an R. And now it's all right here. And when I saw these U's, the first thing I did is I would go to the savings tab and I would type in the chart of account, type in the item, and type the amount for the year that it would save me. And it started totaling that out.
I love that.
And so it's just it's like the next level, like, okay, every single expense I put on here, I'm going to look at. Like, okay, Cutco knives, she's on a monthly subscription to like Cutco, it looks like.
Now they just split it up, and I said instead of taking a big chunk at once, they offered to split it up.
Cool. So, you know, maybe you start looking through this stuff and you say, you know, well, she's not doing realtor.com. She's got Brevity leads. So did you cut out Brevity? Okay. So I would say that this was a direct result of looking at your numbers more closely, right? And then obviously COVID. But it's fun to see, especially now, if you started tracking Chris and you started putting this in, like how much did I actually save?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. It's on my to-do list.
So you look at this two ways. I can give myself a raise by making more money, which in theory I'm in control of, but there are a lot of outside factors. Or I could make a raise by, you know, cutting expenses or, you know, fixing cost of sales a little bit. And Chris's business, she had 6,800, 5,600, and 7,000 in commission. And then in April and May had big months of 35. And you can see, you know, it took her $4,600, $4,700 to make 35. And it took her $9,000 to make 7. So, you know, expenses are that fixed amount that are definitely scalable. Now this got remotely better from May because you had another big month. And so your expenses are, you know, your expenses are are getting there, and everything's working itself out. And that's why we want to look at this total number, and the more months we have, the much better story it is.
Right.
Lisa, I'm going to share mine quick because just want people to see what that looks like. And real decisions are always being made from this. It's like getting the true story. And I'll briefly show 2019, because here you can see that our expenses for salary, based on our little column of the model, we should have been at 16.82. And even after hiring Katie in September and having higher months here, we actually were still under 10. And so just because it's green here doesn't mean that's good, because you can suffocate your business by not putting any money into it and by not having any people or doing anything for lead gen or paying any money for education. So there's a happy medium here, but every single piece that you want to hold accountable. And so here you look at our net income was 28%, which, okay, I said 30, which, or 35 or 40, which it's 28, not as good as I thought, but it's not as bad. It should have been 33, but you see like our expenses were low and our cost of sales were super high. So if you only see this piece, you're like, oh, you made 30% profit, but that's not telling the whole story. If I look at 2020, I also have the old spreadsheet, guys, so let's all feel okay. Like I didn't do it for myself either. We still have, because that sunset clause didn't go into effect, we still have this cost of sale that we gotta get figured out. Our expenses have gone up because we have more staff and we've been spending more in lead generation. But if you look at our total expenses, you know, we were at 38, 38, 37, and then in April was 28. So we cut out 10 grand in a month. Some of it was based on COVID and not doing client parties. Some of it was based on, shoot, we got to cut some stuff out. We got to be smarter about this. And so I went through this in here, and some ideas is this is like our church ad, realtor.com, we got a little discount. We cut out Nextdoor, our public service lunches. We were buying a whole bunch of stuff for promotions. Brevity we cut out, Slack we cut out, and just some ideas of things that we could cut out to get us where we could be. And I want to show you guys one more thing on last year to really prove a point. So last year our expenses were 24,000, 22,000, 22,000, 23,000, 27, 22, 27, basically right around. They started to go up when we hired more staff, but let's say they were right around 24,000 here for the first 7-8 months. And now look here, like in January we made 35,000 and we spent 25 in expenses. We lost money. But in June, when we had a power month, it was like our expenses didn't go up. When I saw this, Katie, to your point, I was like, wow, that's a powerful message that, like, how can we scale our business and sell more homes? Because by selling more homes, you know, we had 8% expenses that month. So it is possible. And how accountable are you holding every dollar to getting you that gross commission income? So for 2020, we didn't do May yet, but you know, I didn't do this through January, February, March, and I was pretty surprised when we had our increase of income or income expenses, but we also made the decision that our goal in 5 years is to be 15% market share in New Berlin. And in order to get 15% market share in New Berlin, we need 200 sales a year just in New Berlin. And so we're like, what can we do to just go all in to New Berlin? And we made that conscious choice. So a lot of these things are starting to pay off. However, some of them got cut off due to coronavirus, when we were making some headway and everything. But we're just now shifting and staying relevant with everything. Trying to find you guys again. There you are. So any thoughts or questions on that from anybody?
So can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
All the different like chart of accounts and categories that you're looking at, these all fall under expenses, right? So cost of sale is going to be separate, and that's about 30% separately, right?
Yeah. So if you look at this is our chart of accounts. If you can see this. So everything with a 4 is based on what we track with our income that comes in. And so we have an income tab or a GCI tab, and we get a sheet of paper that tells us what was our commission, and we can track it here based on listing or buyer. So everything here that's a 4, that starts with a 4 would give us money. Everything here that starts with a 5 would be our cost of sale. And so on our sheet of paper, or our DAs, we call them distribution agreements. This is what a distribution agreement looks like. And we did a little cheat sheet that shares like, okay, where would, this is where the commission would be right here. This is the commission. And if we have a company split with our company, if we have a deduction that's $423, it's detailed down here. So when we talk cost of sales, we had to pay our transaction manager $150, our ISA, inbound sales associate, $175, and we paid the company $98.33. And so that can all be detailed right in this cost of sales tab, where you just start entering in like, okay, in January, we paid this much in broker admin commissions, and we paid a home light, a referral fee. Anything that comes off of our check before it goes into our bank account, we detail here. And so each tab has its own way to track, because typically if you're only tracking expenses, you're not saying, okay, what's the commission that I made and what went out the door before it got into my bank account.
And so I guess my other question is, then you're expecting the cost of sale piece to be about 30%?
Yeah.
And that includes your company split?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I look at the 30-30-40 model, this is a way to look at that, the first section of our spreadsheet.
Okay.
And you would say, okay, if you're 150,000, your cost of sale is 13%.
Okay.
And your expenses are 38. So you're actually going to be netting 49%. And it just it goes through that process based on how much commission you have.
Okay.
And so you see, so you see here, if you want to make $1 million in net, then you're going to have to gross 2,500 or 2.5 million, and you're going to have 30% cost of sale, 30% expense, 40% commission. And
Okay.
in the book, it actually details what would go towards those.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Do you guys have a sheet of paper for every closing that just details like everything that's been taken out?
Me personally, no.
Yeah.
I don't. But we do track our expenses. But I have mainly I've been working with I guess, what would that category have been called on that sheet you just pulled up? It was like the 70%, was it like net income or whatever?
Yeah.
I've been working out of that number. So that's why when you ask me like, what category do I fall in? or gross profit, like that's where I've been working from. So like when you asked me what category I fall in for GCI, I honestly didn't know, because I'm looking only at my gross profit. I was looking only at what actually gets paid out to me. And then I started doing expenses from there. So I wasn't looking too much at cost of sale previously. So this is helpful.
And that's exactly what I did for a long time. And I always looked good.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, maybe you look good from the back, but you don't look good from the front.
Sure.
This way you're trying to look good from like all angles. And I was like, how do I track this? Like just really, really, I know it's right, because I don't want to track it if it's wrong. And, you know, our bookkeeper was like putting stuff inconsistent and not really doing things. So it's like telling you a story, but it's not really telling you an accurate story.
Sure.
And so I just took it over and like really, really learned that, because for a smaller team or an individual agent, it wouldn't have that big of an impact. But I promise you, if you have a couple of buyer agents and you have some, you know, transaction coordination that you're paying, and you're just looking at that expense number, you could be in for a big surprise. And so that's what I'm talking through with like certain agents. I'm doing some of this one-on-one, but mostly with these people that really want to dive into this.
Yeah. So can I just ask, I'm sorry if this is like not relevant for the rest of you, I apologize. I guess one of my questions about if I'm going to evaluate cost of sale, we talk about certain things as being a cost of sale, like obviously like a split with another agent that's on a team or whatever is cost of sale, because that gets taken out before it comes to you. But if I were to outsource transaction management, let's say, and pay, you know, a couple $100 per closed transaction for transaction coordination or whatever, I'm paying that, it almost looks more like an expense because it comes out after I get paid. Do you know what I'm saying? So do we treat that as a cost of sale then, or do we treat that as an expense?
We get it taken out before okay. It
depends.
It doesn't, in my mind, the way I say a cost of sale is simple. Would I have had to pay this if that house didn't sell?
Right. That's how I've been talking about it as well. But now we're talking about when it comes out. And so some of my costs of sale have been, you know, like they've been paid out later on after I get paid, yet I only had that expense because I sold the property. So I guess that's just, I'm not completely clear on that, but overall this is helpful.
I would say all you would have to do on that is just put it under here, transaction management. So if it was if you paid transaction management for a seller side or for a buyer side, you would just put it under here, because that's going to be the most clear way to, you're looking at making business decisions, and that is not an expense, even though it's coming out at a later time. It wouldn't have come out if you didn't sell that home.
Okay.
Now, if you had something in your agreement with your transaction coordinator that if the deal cammers or dies, then you pay them half or something, well, sure, you could put that as an expense. But in my mind, the easiest way to say is like, okay, this ISA, inbound sales associate, would not have been paid a dime if it didn't close.
Okay.
So even though it comes out of my expenses and my payroll, I'm calling it a cost of sale.
Okay.
And the other flip of that coin is the same thing could be said about listing marketing costs, because you could say, well, I'm taking photos for this home. So that's related to that home. But in my mind, that's an expense because you're taking photos of that home regardless if it sells or not.
Right. Right now, we typically sell everything, but I understand that in a different market, that may not be the case.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about this and the cost and the chart of account is that ideally, this stuff stays in the same chart of account and you can start tracking it year over year.
Yeah. Okay.
And so everything is built to be able to be expanded. So like just take this one here, listing marketing costs. There's 6 categories to that. If you for your own business needed a 7th category, you could add it in here because you could have 2170, 2180, 2190. If you never staged or you never did open houses or you never, well, you'd buy signs, you could change this very easily. You know, this is for your business, but I tried to make it as like appealing to the masses as possible.
Okay.
So now that this is the full chart of accounts, you've got all of these accounts that now you could like print off and know and compare, see month over month trends. And it feeds into this, like really it feeds into this story right here. Like this is where the money is. This is where it is. This is the macro level. And then you can get down and dirty into the basics and into the micro. Now, the reason why these say NA here is because the Millionaire Real Estate Agent 2 they don't break down cost of sales like they break down expenses. So of this is 32%, and it's 0.32% of this and 0.96. And so, but they don't do that for cost of sales. They just say our cost of sales should be 35% or less. So when I get in a mastermind with Gary around this, I'm going to say, dude, Gary, let's like talk about this, bro. I'm going to say just like that.
Okay, can I be a fly on the wall when you say that?
And anything else, I'm okay staying a little later if you guys are, just because of the day and I hopped on late, but is there any questions you guys came in with? I know you're texting me throughout the month, which is awesome. And don't think of that as a bother, because I'm learning from you guys as much as you're learning from me. And so just by having people play with this and dive into it, I've made this spreadsheet better and better and better.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and I have to hop off, but you guys have a great day.
Thanks. It was nice seeing you again. Have a good day, Carrie.
Thank you. One thing I want to share with you quick on this new one. So I'm putting the version number right here because as I continue to change, we'll know like, hey, where are you at? One thing I noticed is that under this monthly tab, I would either have a 12, I had a 12 there. And so even though we're 5 months in, it's dividing it by 12, right? And it would really only be accurate at the end of the year. And so what I did is I'm leaving this here so you can type in the number, what month, how many months you entered. And Chris, yours will be like this. So on your first page, you can type in 5 and it will update the month here, the monthly average. So that's one cool thing. The other cool thing is I made it so that under this tab, any tab, the GCI cost of sales or expenses, if you change the chart of account here, if you change the name of something here, 6-2300, you change it to, I change this. Well, now under the summary, it's going to automatically change here, right here. And so you're not going to have to use this. I completely blocked off the need to type anything on this summary page because it will truly pull from these 3 other pages. And so now as you are customizing this for your own business, if you wanted to delete one of these, 6-2340, if you wanted to delete that, just because this is yours, once it's yours, it's yours. You can see right here, it went away. And all you'd have to do is just then delete this row. And it should be good here. I just got to look here and you can see that that's gone. So you just play with the formula and it's all going to work out. So if you ever want to like customize this or anything and things aren't working, just let me know, because it's a very simple fix. But before, you had to do it both ways, and it got really hard and complicated. And I just wanted to make this as easy as possible. The other great addition on these, and Chris has, and Charisse didn't have it, and I was like, Charisse, you got this like ability to do above the line, below the line, and but then I realized she had one of the older versions. So we've got below the line income, which wouldn't be considered like team income. You know, if you're making profit share, you're making transaction mentor income, you're making showing help income. And then more importantly, we got below the line expenses, because when I'm looking at the costs it takes to run the business, I don't want to include my salary, my taxes, charitable contributions, because I want to know the profit of my business, which would then, if I wanted to do charity from there, I could enter it, I could track it, but I don't want it to play with these numbers and these percentages up here.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So I'll have like pretty detailed videos. I did one for my team because I'm teaching Jody how to do this. But I want to make a more general one, because I feel like with this info and with the right like arming and setup, this could gain in popularity, and people could really then start to do this and use this. And it was like close to being there, but now it's a lot. It's like there. It's ready.
Scott, did you say that you're going to switch our spreadsheets for us?
That was my plan, yeah, because I think this spreadsheet is just so much better in terms of like when I built it, there's intricacies that you guys broke it, you guys labbed it, that's good. And so I wouldn't do like 2019 for you maybe, but the other thing that changed now is there's 9 accounts instead of 8. And so I'd really love us to use, you know, the same one or have the same thing. And then, you know, more importantly, next year, you're able to track it using the same stuff. So, and there's only really, well, there's 4 of you, but it would be much easier to do that than it would be to try to fix your spreadsheets into this. Because just fun little fact, I had in this summary, there was 1 extra tab here than there was in any of these 3. And so I couldn't just like copy and paste because there was an extra tab. So I had to like unmerge, and then, so I went like this, I unmerged, and then I cut this out and put it here, you know, for every one of these, so I could delete the old row A. And then I was able to like drag this and drop this here, because also on even Chris's, on this tab, it would divide it by like 9 or 12. And it was like, okay,
That's my
I gotta
note
just,
that I have to ask you, so you fixed it. Thank you.
so I just had to create this chart of account summary page that you didn't have to touch at all. And now everything will pull from these 3 tabs and pull over to here. And the only thing you have to use and touch on this first page is just type in your numbers into the yellow. And then you got to know too, like when you type in May, change that to 5. When you type in June, change that to 6, because then it'll auto populate your monthly average.
Cool.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Super.
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Now I don't
And,
want to go on my listing appointments, and I want to play with the spreadsheet.
Nice. And then just 2 last things is, I think you guys are aware of this, but you know, anytime you get an anomaly, or if someone was doing this for you and you want to change it, you could type in here, like, it was in this account, I'm changing it to this account. Any questions that you have, if you want one spot for questions, like you're going through a month and you're like, okay, I'm going to type in the chart of account and the question, and then you could just send me like 4 questions at once. That's easy. And then again, like I said, the savings. So it should be a very telling depiction of your business.
Well, my coach loves you because she loves this. It's awesome.
Cool.
And it is. It really is. Thank you for doing this. This is a lot of work, and it's really awesome.
Thank you guys for, again, just being here, spending the time. What Lisa mentioned at the beginning was the profit camp on Monday. It was really telling of like, okay, if this is where we're at and we master this, how could we take it to the next level? And it was talking through like personal budget. And so it was like, could we build a chart of accounts for our personal budget? And there was no spreadsheet. And someone was like, can you put this in a spreadsheet? And she's like, no, I don't know how. And I'm like, I could do it. And so now you could you could really take this to the next level. I'm not there yet.
So is that going to be the next thing you send to us?
It will be, but it can't be like, I don't want to make any promises. I will, as far as timeline. But as we continue to mastermind on this, that is where we'll be able to go. And my intention today and from the future is having these basic breakdown videos. And I could tell like a newbie that would join, I'd be like, hey, here's what you're doing, here's what it all is, and like get them up to speed so we can continue to like mastermind. And so please do everything you can to tell a friend, push out my videos when I get them, and just say like, hey, dip your toe in this water, it feels good. It might not feel good at first, it's a little cold, but once you get in, it warms right up.
No, this is awesome. Thanks again.
You bet.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.